Why should you continue to invest in Pokemon in 2023? Well, there's a lot of questions on whether or not you should or shouldn't, and a lot of people say the market's falling apart. But today we're going to be taking a look at what is happening in your traditional investments versus Pokemon investments in 2023 and the reasons on why you should probably continue to invest. Right after this. All right, guys, thanks for joining me once again. Hopefully you guys are having a fantastic week as we are already to hump day this week. That's right, it is Wednesday. And today we're going to be talking about Pokemon investment and whether or not you should continue to invest in the Pokemon. Are the numbers still there to support actually jumping in and continuing to purchase Pokemon products? Well, today we're going to take a look at traditional markets. What are the consistencies we're seeing there? And does Pokemon still hold up to those traditional investments? So today, the first thing we're going to jump into is what do traditional investments look like? We're going to compare that to some of the products that even I'm holding when it comes down to Pokemon investments and talk about overall performance of the Pokemon market and at least what my portfolio is looking like. And then we'll go ahead and finish up with a conclusion on where we think that we should be when it comes down to Pokemon investing. Should you continue to do so? Is there a reason in it? Or should you back out of it and completely start to move on to other investments? So today we'll take a look at that, starting off with this, which is going to be Bitcoin. All right, guys, so here we are down below, and I'm using Barron's as a website that I'm going to use for most of this information. Barron's is a really good availability to kind of break things down and show the different aspects of particular investments. So the first one I've got on the screen here is going to be Bitcoin. That's right, we're going to talk about how the performance of Bitcoin has been over the last year. Now, a year prior, it was pretty rough, right? Some people were around $55,000, $60,000 in the Bitcoin market, and it tumbled all the way down to nearly $20,000. So there was a huge loss to a lot of Bitcoin investors when it came down to it. But has that continued to be the case when it comes down to Bitcoin, or has it been a pretty solid investment? Well, once again, if you're looking at a high risk potential of issues, and there's a lot of risk that goes into Bitcoin overall. A lot of market talks about removing it, putting restrictions on it, starting to regulate it harder due to the fact that it's not a current currency for a lot of different places. Now, there's some speculation and things. Overall, it has not really hampered the overall performance of Bitcoin. As you can see on the screen here, you can see on the graph below, we go from November 20th, which you can see, I'll put my little marker on it here. It started off at roughly $20,171. And as we go into today's date, 1 year later, we're at $33,998 for the same Bitcoin. That is actually a really good gain. When it comes down to it, you're looking at this high risk item and you're looking at it almost doubling in price. You got about an 82% increase in value over the last year. This is a huge gain overall when it comes down to any kind of market. Once again, it's not one that I've really gone into, and it's not really one that I've really put a lot of money into it. I wish I did when I had the opportunity at a lot cheaper cost. I'd probably be a millionaire on an island drinking Mai Tais right now because I would have already sold out of this before it dipped. But overall, I definitely see Bitcoin's doing well. And this is what I wouldn't say necessarily is a traditional investment, but it's definitely an investment avenue that a lot of people are using currently in the markets. So now we're going to jump into some more traditional investments. So I'm going to look at the NASDAQ, the S&P 500, and of course, we're going to look at the Dow Jones Industrial. We're going to look at returns investments on going into property, and then we're also going to talk about bonds. So where would you have been on those particular things and see where we're at? So the next one we're going to jump into is going to be the Dow Jones Industrial. So you can see right here, this is the Dow Jones. This is why I like Barron's is I can see the 12-month change. So if we go from here to here, on our actual graph, we were at about 31,836, and we all went all the way up to 33,141. So overall, in the last 12 months, you would have seen a 4.1% gain if you had just purchased Dow Jones Industrial average stocks. You wouldn't have to do anything, just purchase it, 4.1% in the last 12 months of this particular stock. Once again, or this index, I'm going to call it correctly. It's not a stock, it's an index. So you would have seen a 4% gain through the last 12 months when it comes down to this particular index. Now we're going to go ahead and look at the S&P 500. Once again, S&P's done extremely well. If you look at it overall, we started at about $38,859, and we went all the way up to $4,200. $17 at the end of the last 12 months. So our 12-month change, as you can see in the section next to me on the left, is about 10.07%. So we've seen about a 10% increase in value on this particular index. The S&P 500 index has done really well. There's been some really good gains. Now, the next one I want to show you is going to be the biggest gainer, and the NASDAQ is always the bigger gainer when it comes down to it, and you're getting about a 17.33% increase. So 17.33% increase in your money just by putting it into the NASDAQ. So if we look at it right now, we're sitting at about $11,200 at the beginning, or about a year ago, and we are currently at about $13,140 here at the end of today. Once again, we're looking at a good 17.3% gain on your value. Once again, not bad, right? That's a great investment for your value. Granted, going from 21 to 22 wasn't as good. You saw an actual deficit those last years on every one of these indexes. But when we're looking at it year over year for this particular year, it's doing extremely well. We're doing really well. We're looking at about a 17.33% value on these particular items. We're going to go ahead and take a look at real estate. So what is your average ROI on real estate? Now, this is what we've been seeing, and I was looking, and this is what we came up with, is about 10.6%. So if you read right underneath where it says, what is your average ROI on real estate, goes through in the United States, it's about 10.6%. Commercial can be about 9.5%, and it's slightly higher, with rentals going up to about 11.8%. So once again, you're looking somewhere between 10 to 12% value in your investments when you have real estate. That's been the increase in real estate. So if you purchase property, put that big high dollar amount out there, you're going to be looking at, of course, that 10 to 12% gain on your property. Overall, definitely some great opportunities in real estate. There have been for many years if you have the money to put into it. Next thing we're going to look at, we're going to jump into bonds. So this is going to be your year to date with bonds. So they got the first and second quarter. I haven't found a chart that actually has the third quarter for sure. It just ended just recently. So I'm going to go with what they've got here. So if you were to look, these are your standard bonds from Morningstar indexes. So you got your treasury bonds all the way through your other ones. These are your most common bonds that you would purchase at your banks. I do know that our particular bank has every one of these bonds available to us to purchase if we would like to. But you're varying from 2% all the way up to 6% at your high yield bonds. And of course, the high yield bonds can be very difficult if you look at the previous year. Corporate bonds and all these high yield bonds, so you got high yield, MBS, TIPS, all those, even your treasury bonds, all went down a huge number last year. So if you had these bonds going from 2020, 2021, 2022, you would have seen a pretty good deficit the last couple of years on some of these bonds. This year, we're doing fairly well in the bond market. So overall, definitely some opportunities in bonds. But you're looking at about the best one right now at about a 6.81. If this continues, possibly a 12. Your typical yield on these, effective yield is where you're typically going to end up, is about 8%. So once again, we might be beating the 8%. So we might be recovering from the 2022 losses this year with the current rate of gain on these particular bonds. So once again, we're seeing some really good things in the bond market. So you could potentially be seeing a 10% to 12% gain on that bond market, just hypothetically, but currently you're at about a 6 to 7% gain at your highest end. Otherwise, your lower ends, you're looking at probably 2 to 4% by the end of the year, which is falling right in line with what they're saying is their effective yields. So once again, there's definitely some opportunities in bonds. And overall this year with inflation, you'd be slightly ahead of the inflationary rate of the United States. So the real question is when it comes down to it, how have some of the Pokemon sets that we have been talking about investability for the last year? And I picked 3 of them. I picked the Evolving Skies booster box. We've picked the Chilling Reign booster box because of the amount of movement we've seen on that particular one and the overall long-term investment we've talked about on that. And then I've also pulled the Sword and Shield Ultra Premium Collection Charizard box. Like I said, good little look at what we're seeing on these particular boxes. And we're going to pull up the 1 year. So if we go into the first one, which is going to be Evolving Skies. So I'm going to cruise down here. So here's your 1 year average on the Evolving Skies booster box. So this is from October of 2022 to October of 2023. We've gone from a total of $255 all the way up to a total of $419, which is going to turn out to be about a 78% increase in value on this particular box. Once again, fantastic gains on a Pokemon box going forward. You're going to go to Chilling Reign. Chilling Reign, another one. I might click it to 1 year. We started the year in October of 2022 at $100, and we're already up to $46. So once again, you're looking at approximately a 40% increase in your value over year on this one. Last one we're going to jump into is going to be the Charizard Ultra Premium Collection Box. Now, I like this box because a lot of people really did hamper this. And overall, if you did buy this at certain points along the way, so far this year, though, you got a slight gain. You're going to be going from about 111 on TCG Player. Ooh, let me hit the year over year. So pre-sales on this one was about $127, but realistically, I'm going to say it started off at about $120. So far right now, we're slightly down on this particular product, but overall gains are looking like we're seeing some really good upward turns. Once again, the Pokemon market is interesting because you can always sit there, and if you would have bought pre-release, yeah, you'd have paid some really high prices. Overall, the market dropped pretty quickly right at the beginning. And if we go another month, we've bet about $100, $200 on that one, and we'd already be slightly ahead in this particular box. Granted, if you bought it at the low point here at about $90 on TCG Player, you would already be seeing right now probably about 10% gain. So if you would have bought this at the low, found the low point last year, purchased this, you'd still be seeing about 10% gain. Some of us were buying them at $80, $85, even $70 for this particular box back in November of 2022. Let me get the right month. November of 2022. So we've been seeing some really good gains on this particular product on TCG Player. Granted, each one of these products is another thing you got to take into consideration is you are losing 13% of that. So even with this doing about 79%, you're going to be losing 13% of that. And we'll get a little bit more into that and the breakdown of these particular items as we move forward into that. But that's something to take into consideration when we're moving forward. So I'm going to go ahead and switch back to the main screen, and we're going to have a chit chat about where we're at in the market. So overall, as you can see, traditional investments are doing rather well this year. So 2022, 2023, year over year, we're doing really good overall in investments all over the board. Pokemon, a little bit slower comparatively to the last few years, but other traditional investments have been holding their own. And we've been seeing some recoveries on some of the losses from 2021 to 2022. Great news for a lot of people in their retirement aspects and their bond aspects and the overall performance of what they're looking for. Once again, when you're looking at Pokemon investments, you always have to take into consideration that when you sell these investments, depending on the avenue that you're selling at, you could be seeing a loss of either 7 to 13% on that value. So even though you're seeing a 78, almost 79% increase in value in Evolving Skies, by the time you sell that, you're going to lose 13% of that value. So it's going to kick it all the way down to 66% gains. Once again, trying to keep up with something like Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a very high risk investment, in my opinion. Overall, there's some really big risks with going into Bitcoin. Yes, cryptocurrencies have shown to outperform almost every market out there right now if you are willing to put the risks in it and if you have a little bit of intelligence in how the crypto market works. Bitcoin isn't the only one that's doing fantastic. There's a lot of other ones that have been doing rather well this year. Whether or not it's going to continue as we move forward, it's hard to say. It's hard to say what kind of regulations the governments will start putting on these. Certain countries are already putting more regulations on Bitcoin and that cryptocurrency, and who knows how long until that will start to tumble just because of it getting clamped down on. Hasn't happened yet in the United States, hasn't happened yet in a lot of the major companies or countries, but it's definitely something that could happen. Overall, stock market investments. The indexes are doing extremely well. A lot of the markets are doing extremely well. We're seeing some really good rebounds from the last year or two, and we're seeing some people actually making some money back on their recovery in their pockets when it comes down to those investments. Once again, we're seeing, even at a maximum of an 18% return if you bought the NASDAQ index, composite index, and you would see some really good gains on there. If you went with the standard S&P 500, of course, you'd be seeing around that 10% gain, which is a fantastic gain. Now, the real question is has Pokemon in general been doing this? Now, I could sit there and pull up my graphs and, once again, overall, my Pokemon investments so far this year have been doing about a 23% gain. Year over year from October of 2022 to October of 2023, I'm seeing about a 23% gain in my Pokemon value. That's going through with Chilling Reign. I've got all in there, Chilling Reign, Charizard, Celebrations, UPCs, going through Champion's Path, all the different type of aspects, Fusion Strike, all of these different sets have been doing really well. Even if you're buying them at 120, we're seeing them go back up. Some of them have lost the last few weeks, and I'm still doing about 23%. We've seen Silver Tempest and Lost Origins kind of lose some value in the last couple months just because of reprints, which is something that happens. And it's also a big factor when it comes down to the overall performance in it. The other thing that we're seeing is that currently we are seeing a lot of volatility in the Scarlet and Violet era. We are seeing some downward push on those with increasing drop in value of current booster boxes, while Pokemon 151 is drawing a huge demand and overall pricing is doing rather well. We're even seeing that UPC, even though there's quite a few of them, holding its own on value. Yeah, we can still buy it for about $100 to $110, but it has not dropped as far as the Charizard UPC. To me, there's a lot fewer of those printed, which means the value is going to continue to hold rather than just dump like we saw with the Charizard UPC. And I don't think we're going to be seeing a reprint of that particular set or that particular product due to the fact of that metal card in there. And if you have not opened one, that metal card is a beautiful looking card. Definitely another well done metal card by the Pokemon TCG. Definitely a nice card for your collection if you're looking for it. Once again, that UPC, I don't think is going to go down anymore in value. I think it's where it's going to be. Might see a little bit of a dip, but overall, I think it's going to increase in value rather quickly again, just to continue to move forward with that metal card and lack of reprints on that particular product. Overall, do I think that there's some really good opportunities in the Pokemon TCG still? Yes, there's some great opportunities. And if you're still continuing to see a 15 to 25% gain in your Pokemon investment portfolio, what is wrong with that? Even looking at the different markets that we just put out here today, yeah, you're not keeping up with Bitcoin. High risk. Yes, you're beating all the rest of them from the NASDAQ all the way through the S&P 500, the Dow Jones. You're beating the real estate market. You're beating the bond markets, and you're definitely beating your bank accounts right now because my bank account got a interest boost of up to 0.5%. So yeah, it's definitely beating my savings account still by far when it comes down to it. Now, the real question is should you be continuing to invest in Pokemon, or should you start moving into traditional investments? Well, we'll talk about it right after this. All right, guys, once again, we're going to be talking about whether or not you should continue your investments in Pokemon. And personally, yes, I think that I'm going to continue to move into the Pokemon market. Why would you continue to do so? Well, the number one thing is the naysayers say that the market's down. Yes, it is. It's not gaining 400% every single week. You can't go buy a booster box and it be 3 times, 4 times price in 1 week, 2 weeks after release. We don't see that happening any longer in the Pokemon TCG. It's something that a lot of people find frustrating. And if that's frustrating to you, then good luck finding a different market that's going to do it. If you want to, go for Bitcoin. It might do it. Cryptocurrencies might be able to do that performance and get that to you. Overall, compared to other traditional investments right now, Pokemon's holding its own. It's doing well. It's also fun. You can invest and enjoy your investment. The problem is, and this is the one downside that I will tell anybody when it comes down to investing in the Pokemon TCG, that's a huge issue overall: liquidity. I can't just click a button and sell within 24 hours a lot of the products I have on hand. A lot of these products take time to sell. That's the one benefit to your traditional investments, that in an emergency, you can sell them rather quickly. You can get out of them very fast. I could literally go and sell part of my Roth IRA or my IRA, take the penalties, and be able to sell it right away. Within 24 hours to 48 hours, I can have money in my bank account in case of an emergency. I can't necessarily do that with Pokemon. Pokemon takes time. You need to list. You need to wait. You need to find buyers. You have to sit there and adjust your pricing to try and sell it quickly, sometimes for a considerable loss when it comes down to the value of these particular products if it's an emergency sell. These are things that you have to take into consideration when you're looking at Pokemon as an investment, is the illiquidity compared to a lot of traditional investment. Yes, liquidity could be better than a real estate investment. Absolutely. A real estate investment could take months to sell, or it could sell next day. It just depends on what market you're in and what kind of opportunities there are in the market that you're selling in. Real estate's another one of those things. High dollar value, high amounts of property costs. You've got to pay mortgages, taxes, and all these things on these properties until you sell them if you don't buy them with cash. Or you got to have a large lump sum of cash up front in order to be able to purchase these investments up front. I mean, there's not very many homes that you're going to buy right now for under $100,000. There's just not very many available. Even here in northern Wisconsin, in the rustic areas, we still are having a hard time finding any homes under $100,000. So overall, I will continue to be putting money in the Pokemon TCG. I'm really bullish about it. I think that there's some great opportunities, even in the modern sets that are coming out. Paldea Evolved, Obsidian Flame, Pokemon 151, of course, is going to be big. Even coming up on Paradox Rift is looking like a very good set. There's some really good opportunities in the set. Great looking arts, great looking secret heart rares. Definitely some great art rares in this particular sets, and definitely going to be fun. I've played it. I've opened it. I've had fun. It's going to be enjoyable, guys. I think there's going to be some really good opportunities futuristically with Paradox Rift. People are going to have a hard time getting over the future Paradox Pokemon and the ancient Paradox Pokemon, but there's definitely some fun in it. Definitely some cool looking cards that are coming out in that set. Definitely some opportunities overall in that particular set. So once again, guys, keep your eyes open. Be patient. Find that low point. Like we see, even if you go back to the Sword and Shield Ultra Premium Collection, Charizard Ultra Premium Collection, look at that low point. If you could have bought them at $80 and they're selling at $110 right now, you lose 13% off of that. They're still selling for $97 out of your house. You sit there and you figure that part of it in there, and they're even going down. You pay shipping, you get it out at $90. So you bought it at $80, you're selling at $90. You're making $10 value right now on that, even with the costs of actually listing that, selling it through TCG Player, and shipping it. So definitely some opportunities. If you were lucky, like some of us, and got them for $70, $20. Hey, that's a great turnaround in less than in 1 year. We're not quite 1 year. We're just at that mark, but still 1 year to have that kind of an increase in value. Definitely a great opportunity for the people that bought low and are selling in today's market. Overall, guys, definitely some good opportunities in the Pokemon market. Definitely some great opportunities in Pokemon investing. And if you're looking at the Pokemon investing, it's comparable to traditional investments and doing slightly better than those Pokemon investments, which means they're still great buys. And you should definitely be looking at them for opportunities moving forward. Don't expect 400%. Don't expect 100. Don't expect 50. But if you're expecting to be competitive with traditional investments, it's still there. The opportunities are there to do a slightly better than most of them. So definitely keep your eye out for it. Other than that, guys, hopefully it's some good information, and hopefully I've deserved your subscription today. And if you've made it this far, please hit that subscribe, hit that notify, hit that like button. It helps the video out a ton. Also, if you want to support the channel and help us out, click the 99-cent membership down below. Get some cool emojis. Definitely have some fun in the live chats. Join us on Tuesday, 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. every Tuesday. We're doing a live here with you guys. Other than that, guys, we'll see you next time here on Northwoods TCG.